Hey crafters, it's paper pumpkin time. We are going to create 2 cards today together from the 2025 May Mountain Majesties. Let's head down to the crafting table. Let's get started. The first card we're going to make is a bookbinding card meets a gatefold. And we are taking this card, the first thing we want to do is cut it down to size. And I need the front panel of my card to be a certain size. So I'm going to take this card that they gave us and I am just going to slice the end of it off. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to slice this part. And I'm doing this because I want this as my front panels on my bookbinding gatefold. Now, it's a little bit too long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. And it needs to be 3 3/4. So we're going to cut it about right here. Now, of course, save this panel because you can make additional cards. That's what Monty and I are all about on our Paper Pumpkin, creating alternatives, and we hope they inspire you. So the next thing we need to do is we need to cut this in half. And we have measured this at 3 1/4. And so we're going to cut it at 1 5/8. So we're coming right over here. We're just lining it up to 1 5/8, and I'm going to split it right down the middle. And so now I have 2 parts. Now let's go ahead and make our actual bookbinding card, right? This is such a fun card to make. So the first thing you want to do is have an 11 by 4 1/4 piece of cardstock. And we are going to turn it long ways and we're going to score at 2 1/8, 3 3/8, and 8 7/8. So you need to extend your arm, go over to 8 7/8. Now, the easiest way to fold this is to take this area right here that only has 1 score line, and we're going to fold that in. So fold it to the left. And now we're going to take this area right here that has 2 score lines, and we are going to take this one, fold it to the left. Make sure you have everything lined up. And then this one folds back. Give it a good crease. Now, this is the bookbinding gatefold. We're going to attach this piece right here to the card, and then here's our gatefold. How cute is that, right? So let's go ahead and glue this down. Now, you can use wet glue, you can use a tape runner. I'm going to go ahead and use this tape runner right here because it is very strong. And I'm just going to push it down and give it a good smush. Now you can bring in your bone folder and actually just press it down. And now we have our gatefold. But we need our panels, right? And remember I said this was going to go right on the top of our gatefolds. But we're going to double mat it. So I went ahead and I cut my 2 mats. Now I want to remind you, all the measurements are going to be over at creativemomentsbyg.com, my blog. And you know how to get there? Check below this video and I will have a link for the blog so you don't have to search for it. Okay, so let's bring in our silicone mat. Let's bring in our 2 mats. And let's get these glued down. Now I'm going to go ahead and use some wet glue, because I need time to wiggle, right? So let's go ahead and get this glued down to the mat. Now, I have used pecan pie or a light brown as my mat. Now, hang out with us for the whole video because I'm going to show you a total of 11 cards. And then as a bonus, at the very end, I'm going to show you the same designs made with other supplies and materials, just in case you don't have paper pumpkin. Maybe you want to see how they might look made with other supplies. So the next thing we want to do is go ahead and add this to the front of our gatefold. Look at that. How pretty is that going to be? And you can still see the scene. You can see the sun and the mountains. I love that. Now we do need this area right here decorated. So I went ahead and I cut a mat and I brought in some patterned paper because I just wanted to have some stripes. So let's get that glued down. Okay. Now we're ready to decorate the inside. I went ahead and I cut some squares. We're going to add this right here. And this gives you plenty of room to write. But wait, let's go ahead and decorate these panels. What I did is I took an envelope. Let's cut this envelope apart. The way I like to cut their envelopes is I put this straight edge right at the top of my trimmer and I trim off the smallest amount that I can trim. Now I go ahead and flip it over because I want this straight edge right there. Cut it off just a little bit. And now you can open up the envelope. Now, I typically cut this piece off and I keep it because you have all this area right here to use. And then I'm going to cut 2 panels out of this. I cut them out and I emboss them with the embossing folder called So Swirly. Isn't that pretty? Let's go ahead and adhere them to the mats. Now, you don't have to do second mats if you don't want to, but we like to just give it, jazz it up just a little bit, and that is a very easy way to do it. Doesn't take any supplies, doesn't cost really any more money, but it does jazz it up. Let's add this to the inside of our card. And cutting that envelope just really gave us just a little something right there on the inside, didn't it? Look at that. But we still need a sentiment. So we took one of the sentiments from the kit, You're the Greatest, and we're just going to add this right here. You only add it on one side of the gatefold. So I'm just adding some tape right here. I'm going to close this and center it. Just like that. Now look. Now, let's add a few little birds right there. So I'm going to bring in the stamp that they gave you in the kit. I'm going to bring in my Knight of Navy, and I'm just going to stamp just a few birds right here. Look at that. So pretty and so easy. This is a bookbinding meets gatefold card. You open it up, you can stamp anything you want. You can leave it just for writing your sentiments. But let's take a look at some other cards that we made using this kit. Look at this panel card. we cut our panels using the card and just cutting them apart. We double matted, of course. We added that beautiful oval on the front. And look at that. This front part is cut off. Now you will have a link below this video, so check that out. All you have to do is click more below this video. Look at that. So pretty. We added part of the trees right here and just cut around the edges. We created a matchbook card. So much fun. All you have to do is pull this out just like this. And then look what pops up. You're the greatest. You have plenty of room to write. This just goes right back in the top. We decided to do a gatefold with the belly band, and it's a side gatefold. So we cut our card with a side cut on it. You open it up. We use the vellum that came with the kit. Look at that. Added our birds. And then you just put your little belly band back on. We made a flap card. Here's our scene right here. We cut our card apart, made a flap, added our trees. Such an easy card to make, but oh my goodness, so pretty. So here is our first set. Take a moment and leave a comment of this first set. Which is your favorite? Oh my goodness, I don't know. I like them all. Are you ready to make a second card with me? Let's do this. Okay, our next card is a pop-up with a Z-fold. You're really gonna love this one. So the first thing you want to do is take an 8.5 by 5.5 piece of cardstock and score it at 4 1/4. And then you want to grab a card from the kit and you want to decide what do you want your front panel to look like, because it's going to go right here on the front of your card and we're going to have a circle cut out. So we decided on this design. Look at that, how pretty. Now we're not going to double mat it. We're just going to glue it straight down to the card. Going to wiggle, wiggle, because we have to make sure it's straight. And now we're going to bring in some dies, some decal dies. And we've selected this size right here. And we're just going to center it right like this, and I'm going to cut this out. Now you'll want to save this circle because we're going to use it. So let's do that. Okay, let's pop this out. Now we have this right here. We're just going to add that. We want to go ahead and stamp our message. So we are going to stamp "You Mean the World to Me," and this comes with the kit. So let's grab our Night of Navy. Tap, tap, tap. And I think we're going to stamp a few little birds right here. So let's do that. And now we need to make the inside mechanism on this card. So we're just going to take a piece of cardstock, and this cardstock is 8 by 5 1/4, and we score it at 2 and at 4. So let's go ahead and score it at 2 and 4. Now, put your score lines on the front, and on this 2-inch score line, go ahead and fold it back to the left. This creates our Z. This is what goes on the inside, just like this, and then it pops out. So before we put this down, we wanted to just add a little bit to it. So we've added a second mat because you will see this when you open it up. So let's go ahead and lay that down. Let's adhere this to the inside of our card, making sure that we have the same margins top to bottom, side to side. And now we want to put a little message. You're the greatest on the inside. So we can put it right down here, or you could put it right at the top. Let's go ahead and put it at the top. That leaves you plenty of room to write. So tap, tap, tap. And we're going to close our card because now we're going to bring in this circle and we're going to add it right here back exactly where it goes, just like this. Making sure that our lines match up, and you can see that we're going to pop it up, and this is how it's going to be adhered right to this front panel. So we're going to take it apart, we're going to bring in our glue, and we're only adding glue right here on this half circle. If you put it anywhere else, you're going to close the card, and you don't want that. And you also don't want to get the glue all the way to the edge of the circle because it's going to squish down. So let's go ahead and line this up again. Get everything lined up, hold it, and now open the card. We have it exactly where we want it. Now, we have this. Look how pretty that is. But we want a frame, so we created this frame. We took our deckled dies and we just cut out a frame, and then we cut out 3 frames and we glued them together just to give us some additional height. So let's bring in our silicone mat and let's just add a little bit of glue all the way around. Now let's add this to the front of our card. And it really just spotlights it just a little more. And look at that. Look at how pretty that is. You open it up and you pull it out. How pretty is that? Let's look at some additional cards that we made using the kit. We made a bay window. Look at this. How pretty is that? This just slips underneath, stands up so nice. The perfect masculine card, right? Now this one on the outside, you might think, oh, there's not much decoration. We cut apart one of the cards. We just added some little strips here at different levels just to give it some interest. We used a frame to cut this out. This sentiment is from the kit, but when you open it up, look at that. So pretty. We cut apart a card to give us this scene. And there you have it. There's a surprise inside on this one. Now look at this one. So pretty. We went with some lighter colors for our cardstock. We cut our card apart for this bottom part and that one. Cut it into a circle. Added some beautiful birds and some gems. And then you just open it up. And we cut a circle right here. We embossed the background. You have plenty of room to write. And this half flap card is just so pretty. And then we wanted to bring in our favorite little die that has these hearts in it. This is from Fancy Borders. It has both of these dies in it. We cut apart a card landscape. We added that beautiful sentiment to the front and then just added cardstock on the inside so you could write. But look at that. So cute. And our final card that we're going to add is this beautiful flap card. Look at the colors that we've selected. We went with this pale pink. It's a flap card, very easy to make. Just love it. Love the colors. So take a moment and leave a comment again of group 2. Which is your favorite design? Sis and I would love to know. Now remember I said that we have an extra bonus for you. For those of you that don't have paper pumpkin and you want to see these designs made using other supplies, get ready. Here we go. Here is the matchbook card that I showed you earlier using a different patterned paper, just so you could get an idea of how it might look. Here is that panel card using different patterned paper. Love this card. Added just a wreath above it. Of course, we have our flap card with different patterned paper. And we have another flap card. Look at this one. This is just to give you an idea of what else you can do with these designs not using the paper pumpkin. Look at this diagonal card on the inside and on the outside. We have a side gatefold for you with a much larger belly band. We've embossed the front, stamped the inside, and then we have our bay window. Open it up, slide that under, and there you go. Okay, we have shown you lots of samples of these designs, but we hope you enjoyed the paper pumpkin designs that we used and all the materials that we used from the kit. We were able to make so many alternatives with this paper pumpkin kit. We hope that you were inspired and that you take just a moment to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Well, Maddie and I appreciate you so much, and we want you to go out and have lots of creative moments. Bye-bye.